Hello and welcome. Happy New Year's 2024. Hi, Ashleigh.
Hi, Happy New Year. Cheers.
Cheers. It's a bit early. I've got coffee till cocktails.
It's okay. This is tonic water without a gin.
Oh, fantastic. So hopefully, if all's been well, this is the first time I've gone live on Instagram. So hopefully that is working. We will soon find out, I'm sure. And we've also got all our other channels. So if you're watching us on lesflix.com, you can watch. But if you want to comment, then you can go on to Instagram and also onto YouTube. And we're also on Facebook. And we're not on Threads because they don't allow it yet. And we're not on Twitter because it's dying. And it's a bit too toxic at the moment.
And a little anti-Semitic, but there we go.
Yeah, and a little homophobic. I mean, honestly, such a safe space these days. So thank you, everyone. Ashleigh, why are we here? Let's tell everyone.
Why are we here? We are launching the campaign to make this film that I wrote called Lebkuchen. And we're here to just have a bit of a campaign launch online party. We were doing sparkles and stuff, and I then realised that this is probably the sparkliest thing that I. Not quite true, actually. I have another top, but I wasn't feeling it.
I've got decorations that are falling down, so it must be over. Christmas must be over because they're about to drop. Yeah, I got my little dress on, but then I realised it's headshot. So, and for everyone watching, this is kind of what to expect. Like, it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah,
and, all of our plans are like mostly thought out, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, embrace the positive chaos. We all need chaos on New Year's Day. Yeah, I may have dogs, but my dog barking, my cat meowing. I might even invite her to come out. She's gone in the other room now, so I might invite her so much she enjoys this, but she will come in a minute and say hello. But yeah, we just thought we'd have a bit of a party to launch the campaign and kind of give you a sense of kind of what the campaign is about and what the campaign, what the perks will be and what to expect really over the next few months, I think. Yeah.
And I guess what the film will be about, for anyone who's completely new, they're probably like, what the hell are you talking about? So yeah, so let's so Lebkuchen, Ashleigh's written it, and we're co-producing, and anyone who knows me from kind of Lesflix will know that we focus on stories that have authentic Sapphic storylines, and it's not just about bringing on films that people have made, but I'm actually really trying to help get more films made, better quality, better stories. And what I really love about Lebkuchen is that it's not only talking about kind of Sapphic lives, but also intersectionality, and in this instance into kind of the Jewish life. And I think particularly in 2023, particularly going into 2024 after the shit show that was 2023. Oh, it's adults only, by the way, we're swearing. Yeah, I thought it's important we showcase the different aspects of not only our queerness but also where we come from, and I really love the story you've written. So Ashleigh, I mean, what's our plan for today? What we're going to obviously chat a bit about Lebkuchen. We've got a few little videos as well to share, haven't we? We were going to have a bit of a laugh over.
Yeah, I just thought there's been a few kind of reviewing 2023, as it were. There's been a few fun Lebkuchen adjacent things, sort of crossing the intersectionality of British queerness and British Jewishness, which has been really heartwarming. And there's a couple of sort of people who have particularly said interesting things this year that we kind of wanted to look at and sort of have a chat about. And I know that obviously Naomi isn't Jewish, and I feel like I'm also giving her a bit of a education as well as the audience here, which is fun actually, and sort of educating people about I guess specifically British Jewish culture, which is, I think people are very familiar with, the Seinfelds and the American side of things, and actually I think it's quite different in the UK, and that's there goes my dog. And it's quite different in the UK, and then there's particular things about the UK that are interesting and wonderful and exciting, and about sort of British Jewish queerness, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, I must admit, I probably identify more as spiritualist. I was brought up Christian, but haven't been to church for a long time. Too much Sunday school will do that to someone.
This is Sybil. This is my dog.
Hello, Sybil.
This is the small dog, or smallish, making lots of noise. Thank you.
Anyone who watches our little crowdfunder introduction video that we will share later, and it's available on the crowdfunder, Sybil makes a cameo in that as well, and we even offer them a lead role if we don't make the money. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, and we've got a Happy New Year in the comments. Happy New Year. She's still barking. Come on, girl. So yeah, and it's not it's also not even I would say there's something about Jewishness that isn't necessarily about religiosity. It's sort of more than that. Well, perhaps I can sort of preface this with starting one of our videos, which was Stephen Fry did a really lovely alternative Christmas message, and I mean, how many years has Channel 4 been doing? It's in the background now.
The alternative.
How many years has Channel 4 been doing the alternative Christmas message?
Let's ask our viewers. If anyone at home knows, I'm going to guess probably at least 10 years. It must be.
That's what I would. That's the number that popped into my head. So yes, and Stephen Fry did this year's one, and I actually didn't even. There wasn't very much publicity this year about it, and I ended up coming home after being with my family over Christmas. Christmas being a Christian festival, but in a similar way of
it's a Hallmark festival these days, isn't it? I think it's more.
Well, yeah. I mean, welcome to British Jewishness. In America, the tradition is to go for Chinese food on. Jews go for Chinese food on Christmas Day, because I don't know. It's just become like what Jews do on Christmas Day in America, but in the UK, everything's closed, and so actually a lot of British Jews do celebrate the Christmas and do enjoy it, as British Muslims do and other immigrants do, and other sort of religions do, because it's more of a national holiday.
I was going to say, is it more like what I do? Because I do it for the sparkly lights, the lovely tree, the nice atmosphere, and the grazing all day on party food.
Oh yeah. And what else is there to do? What else is there to do in it other than like eat lots of food on Christmas Day? But I think that's kind of my approach to Jewishness as well. I mean, in terms of like the big questions. I mean, there's more sort of cultural and more sort of like traditions and things like that, which are lovely actually. But yeah, I think Stephen Fry's lovely video really, I felt, brought a sense of British queer Jewishness to a mainstream audience, which was really touching and particularly relevant right now. So
I was going to say, before we have a look at that, I'd like to just do a shout out. Harshlight News are just engaging with us, and they said their lead writer, Shane E. Thomas, is a gay Jewish man.
Yay!
And also agrees with us that 2023 was an absolute shit show. I just realised we are live on Twitter because that's an X. I did reconnect. Right. I did connect anyway. That's anyway, okay. So
no, and I think that's right. And I mean, it's really sad. I had an actor friend of mine actually recently who streamed her experience on TikTok. Actually, she lives in Stamford Hill, which, for those who don't know, is a area of London that is quite associated with the Hasidic community. And the Hasidic community are what you sort of think about when you think of they're very Orthodox Jews, and they have the hair and the hat and the all of that. And and there was some anti-Semitic graffiti that she very kindly was cleaning off a bus stop near I don't know what it is, but she said she thought maybe it was a school, but maybe it was yeshiva, which is a Jewish a religious study center or something like that, or it might have been a synagogue. But so I mean, I think there's a level of kind of one of the things that Stephen Fry even raises in this, and you see my cat as well.
Cat's on Zoom now. I haven't got any pets. I feel like, hang on a minute, I have actually got a dog. Here you go. Here's my dog.
Oh, cute! In the
my
Christmas
dog's much better behaved. Doesn't jump up. Well, can look. Get off the screen.
Lovely. Yes, but I think so I think Stephen Fry's sort of message in his Christmas message is one of humanity, which is something I feel like let's bring that in as a New Year's resolution to 2023 or 2024. We keep doing it.
To be fair, I think we have a bit of a pass on getting the year wrong, at least for the next 12 hours.
Yeah. What do you mean? The next 12 months, I think. And I think sort of bringing humanity in everything that you do, and recognizing people's humanity, even if you have even if there are problems, even if there are issues in the world, is really important.
Yeah.
So yes. So I think it would be good to if we are able
we can put up the Stephen Fry alternative Christmas message and just watch it. I haven't seen it, so for me it would be a seeing first time, and we can kind of go Gogglebooks-esque.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic. Okay, here's one that this is the first time I've tried to swear. I feel like I've got a whole, it's already like three, no it's not, it's a lot of hours into 2024, and I'm already trying my second new thing of the year. I mean, I think, woohoo. Right.
Do things that scare you. 2024, the year of doing things that scare you.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Merry Christmas. As a child, I was almost unbearably excited by stockings, games, chocolates, presents. To this day, the aroma of mince pies triggers me into gulping fits of sentimental ecstasy.
Sorry?
You like
it? I grew
mince
out
pie?
of childhood,
I do.
Realizing
Puff
I was
pastry,
gay,
lighter.
I saw a long, lonely line of Christmases ahead of me. Exclusion, exile, and disgrace had been, and surely always would be, the fate of the homosexual. But look, in my short lifetime, well, I think of it as short, Britain has moved towards an understanding and acceptance of gay love. All right, it's not perfect, of course.
We went a bit backwards last year.
Improvement over the grim culture in which I grew up.
He sort of acknowledges that.
However, that I never for one single second would ever be an issue about which I had any cause to worry in this country was that I'm a Jew. Yes, you heard me correctly. I am a Jew. That may surprise some people. Surprises me. Really.
I
don't think of myself as especially Jewish. Indeed, sometimes people rather embarrassingly refer to me as quintessentially English.
Yeah.
That means, I suppose it's because I love cricket and Shakespeare and the Archers on Radio 4, and my vocal cords appear to be made of tweed. But if you take a swab of my spittle, as I did with one of those genetic services, up comes 52% Ashkenazi Jew. More than half, which was a bit of a surprise.
You ever done one of those?
No, but I want to. I
Jewish family came over from Central Europe in the 1930s, but my father died without knowing that he was a fraction Jewish.
Wow.
Maybe you were a fraction Jewish too, without knowing it. Does it matter? I mean, I don't really identify as Jewish any more than I identify as English or British. Then
it's
again,
another one
I
of
know,
those
because I've been
invisible features,
warned,
isn't it?
that I've been on lists of British Jews
Identities.
that some ultra right-wing newspapers and sites have published over the years. And I'm frankly damned if I'll let anti-Semites be the ones who define me and take ownership of the word Jew, injecting it with their own spiteful venom. So I accept and claim the identity with pride. I am Stephen Fry, and I am a Jew. The great Irish thinker and writer Conor Cruise O'Brien once said that anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. Well, it seems to have woken up of late. The horrendous events of October the 7th and the Israeli response seem to have stirred up this ancient hatred. It's agonizing to see all the violence and destruction that it's unfolding,
as
and
well,
the terrible loss of life on both sides brings me an overwhelming sadness and heartache. But whatever our opinions on what is happening, there can be
Jews,
no excuse for the behavior of some of our citizens. Since October the 7th, there have been 50 separate reported incidents of anti-Semitism every single day in London alone.
And this is where it's unfortunately impacted. And I think actually,
1,350%, according to the Metropolitan Police.
And
shop windows smashed, stars of David and swastikas daubed on walls of Jewish properties, synagogues,
there's a lot of anger, and
cemeteries.
there's reasons why there's a lot of anger, and they're fine. But unfortunately, whenever there's anger like
real fear stalking the Jewish neighborhoods of Britain.
Not
Jewish people here are becoming fearful of showing themselves.
But minorities.
In 2023, my Jewish grandparents loved Britain, believing that Jews were more welcome here than in most countries. I'm glad they aren't alive now to read newspaper stories that would have reminded them of the 1930s Europe that they left.
I've stopped watching the news and reading the papers.
Meant being fair and decent.
I can see that.
But what can be more unfair or indecent than race hatred, whether anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any kind?
It's a huge.
So what is my message this Christmas? The simple truth that we're all brothers and sisters. It's naive, but it's as good a message as any other.
Good article on Radio 4 this morning about how we're all related. At this time, in the face of the greatest rise in anti-Jewish racism since records began, Jews should stand upright and proud in who they are. And so should you, whatever your genetic makeup. Standing upright means speaking up and calling out venomous slurs and hateful abuse wherever you encounter them. Knowing and loving this country as I do, I don't believe that most Britons are okay living in a society that judges hatreds of Jews to be the one acceptable form of racism.
I have things to say about that as well. I don't think
with us. Exactly. Proud to be Jewish or Jewish, or if not Jewish at all, proud to have us as much a part of this great nation as any other minority, as any of you. And so, this mad, quintessential queer English Jew wishes you, whatever your race or creed, however you identify yourself, all peace, joy, and a very merry Xmas, formerly known as Twittermas. Now let's all exhale that great sigh that Jews have sighed for thousands of years. Oi.
Gotta love a nice oi.
Hang on, I've got to find the pause button. Oh, there you go. Okay. Let me pull that out. I would say the only thing I think is really challenging is the energy it takes to stand up and to counter. And I think particularly for people who have intersectionality as kind of queer, Jewish, queer Christian, any religion, it's draining. And I think what we've probably seen in 2023 is a lot of people are seeing that attack in every angle. And actually, we're seeing a lot of people leaving social media. And that's why, for me, film is really good, because it's another way to educate, to share experiences, to open eyes. Yeah, because it's actually, you know, film as a medium is seen as entertainment, and primarily it is, but actually it's when you watch something on screen that you then connect with someone who's got an experience different from your own, that you then realize and get exposure to a different point of view. And so the power of film can be, and obviously the reach you can get as an individual, I can go on to X or Twitter or Threads or Instagram and maybe reach 10 people because the algorithms are against me, even if I've got the followers. But a film kind of goes out into the world and it gets watched and shared and recommended, and I think you can just, you know, and it lives on any further than I am going to be around. And that's why for me, having really authentic stories that really represent, and I think it's important as well to represent where we are right now.
Absolutely.
And obviously Lebkuchen covers, you know, the desire to have a family and the need to use IVF or IUI to do so, because obviously we all know 2 women, you're missing a vital ingredient to make a baby. And that for me means that this film, yes, it connects to Jewish culture, and there'll be elements that other religions may see parts of. Others will just get, as you say, like me, an education into Jewish life and that. But also I think there'll be people who maybe don't necessarily connect with the Jewish side, but they'll connect with the wanting a family and needing support. And there's all these different layers that come with this story that people will connect with. And whilst they're watching it for the reason they want to watch, they also get more from the other parts of the story.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, you know, minority cultures, as it were, I actually think they've got a huge amount in common. Like, you know, if I know my Indian friends that I have, or other kinds of immigrant, you know, from immigrant backgrounds, or you know, minority, I guess, backgrounds. The friend that I mentioned who did the clearing off of the graffiti, I mean, she has a show that she's been doing. Payvand Sadigian is her name, just to put her out there because she's amazing. And she, it's called Duel, it also has a name in Farsi, and it's because she was an undocumented immigrant to the UK, but she was so young she sort of doesn't remember being that, and she, as far as she's concerned, she's really a Londoner. She's got a beautiful Cockney accent, yeah, and I think there's a thing of sort of, if you're a minority, whether you're kind of visibly a minority or invisibly a minority, it's really important for minorities to stand up for each other in sort of solidarity as well, because you know, if you're being targeted as well, your ability to stand up for yourself might be limited. Whereas if you're not exactly precisely being targeted, you can do more. I mean, I found that in sort of solidarity that I've built with, you know, the trans community. I'm not trans, I'm a cisgender woman, and but I'm I identify as bisexual, but you know, I feel like I can fight better for the trans community sometimes against, you know, the hatred, because it kind of breaks you when you're the one, you know, when it's your identity that's being victimized, you know, and it limits how much you can do that. I would also argue, you know, as we said, against the, you know, the one acceptable form of racism. I actually don't think that's the case. I think the problem we're seeing at the moment is a lot of anger, a lot of that's being directed towards the wrong people, and a lot of you know, we're also seeing like conspiracy theories and things like that, and Jews and queers have that in common. And of course, there is also, unfortunately, you know, a long history of Jewish. There's actually a long history of Jewish queerness, which is very interesting. There's a fantastic film documentary called El Dorado: Everything the Nazis Hate. And it follows different queer people. But yeah, there's sort of intermeshed conspiracies between queer people and, you know, and Jewish people, and it's, you know, dangerous and upsetting and, you know, not true. More to the point.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved Stephen Fry's story, and I also think there's or Stephen Fry's message rather, and I think there's a universality of you know, whoever you are, whatever your identity makeup. And I think also when I say that, it's sort of easy when you're a, you know, white, straight, British, you know, cisgender person, to you know, to ignore that that's your identity because it's sort of neutral. But I think there's a universality in terms of saying, you know, this is who I am, and that's okay. Unfortunately, if you're a white, straight, British, you know, you know, Christian, Church of England or non-denominational or whatever, generally people don't have a problem with you. So generally, it's a generalization, generally. So I absolutely loved his Christmas message. And what was really interesting to me is that my mother also kind of mentioned how much she loved his message as well. And I think that was really something that we shared, which yeah, it's important. I think I think a lot of people are looking at it. It's important, and it's gone kind of semi-viral actually now. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's words we need to hear at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyway,
one thing. So obviously, yeah, Stephen Fry has summed up the Jewishness, and I think that's been good to talk about. And I think the other thing I think people would like to know, because again, I think you and I know quite a lot about this film. We haven't launched the crowdfunder yet. We haven't really given much detail. So
yeah, of course.
I would like to talk to you a little bit. So we're staying with the Jewishness, but moving slightly more into the Sapphic, away from the gay man. We've given them enough time. So I'm going to slightly move you on. One of your dream cast, who I am reading her book, and I think she's fantastic. And I've actually got tickets to go see her live later this year. And I think like this is the sort of thing I think is really fun. There is precedent of famous people being in short films. So it's not out there. And so I really want to say to people who go, well, it's not going to happen. This actress has been in other independent short films. And so, like, we're dreaming big because it's possible. So do you want to introduce your dream or your dream cast? And then we've got a couple of videos as to kind of, everyone must know her by now, but just in case, we've got a couple of micro videos.
I would adore for the legend that is Miriam Margolyes to play the role of the grandmother. And there's actually, I'm not even sure I've shared this with you, Naomi, but I mean, one of the factors is that actually she doesn't look wildly different from my grandmother, who I've based one of the main characters on. I mean, actually, the grandmother character is sort of an amalgam of various grandparents and various conversations I've had. But for those that don't know, the sort of the impetus to write this film came from when Britain was leaving the European Union. Quite a lot of people who had relatives who had left Europe because of the Holocaust were looking at essentially reclaiming that citizenship, which basically, because it will have been forcibly removed, because the countries that were that were Nazi or were under Nazi occupation were essentially voiding the nationality of Jews in their country, and others as well, actually. And so quite a few countries have said, you know, if you have sort of strong enough heritage from these places, and essentially you would have been that from that country, had, you know, essentially had the Nazis not come to power, you would have probably been from that, or potentially been that from that country. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have been me, because my mother's side is has been in the UK for a lot longer, actually. But so I was looking. My grandmother was born in Germany. Both my paternal grandparents were born in Germany, and I was looking into claiming German citizenship in a cursory way, and I had a conversation with my dad. And actually, unlike the story that I've written, my dad's actually from the US, and my grandparents went to the US. But one of the things I was sort of thinking about was I have dual American and British citizenship, and I was sort of thinking, well, do I want to rescind my American citizenship because I don't live there? I don't. I mean, I do have a connection there, but and take on German citizenship. And I sort of started discussing this with my dad, and he said, your grandmother would be heartbroken. And that was not a response that I expected. And it sort of got me thinking about these relationships to our national identity, especially if you are a minority, and the country of your origin is not necessarily treating you, or has in the past treated you badly. And what does that mean? And then, I mean, the thing that I sort of find funny is that my grandparents used to speak German to each other, and they used to enjoy particularly German, as the name of the film, Lebkuchen. My grandfather in particular absolutely loved German baking. He loved Lebkuchen, he loved Stollen. And what's even more funny about that is, of course, Lebkuchen and Stollen are both like Christmas foods. Yeah. And so they're Christian and not Jewish, but it's more about national identity, and that's a very German Christmas thing. And so it's just very interesting when these sort of parts of our identities kind of bump up against each other, and that, I just think, is that's where the drama is, isn't it? That's where the so that's how I came to write Lebkuchen. But going back to Miriam Margolyes, sorry, I got completely so she's also what's quite interesting is that she's also very interested in her heritage, and actually, if you ever, I mean, we're both reading her book, but she talks quite a lot about where her family were originally from, and talks about being very English and Scottish. Actually, her father was Scottish, but his parents came to Scotland from I think she's Eastern Europe somewhere, isn't it? It's and sort of how that intersection kind of works. But also, I think it makes for particularly interesting stories, and also I think it makes for particularly well, interesting people. And Miriam Margolyes is certainly interesting. She's a huge character.
I would call her a force of nature.
Oh yes.
And very inspiring, actually, as well. Like, as a queer woman, and also as an autistic woman, I've never had, like, you know, when people go, oh, who's your kind of favorite celebrity, and who's your, I don't know what they call them, what are they, like, people you love and adore.
Inspiration.
And I've never got it, and I'm like, no one. Like, they're just people and they're doing jobs. Actually, in the last couple of years, a couple of people are starting to kind of stand out there. But I think that's because what I've realised is there are so few out proud queer women doing awesome things.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, actually, there probably would be a role model if there was one out there. And I think actually she's come into her own. I feel like as she's got older, her no bullshit filter has got less and less, and I love it. And it means that she's 100% authentic.
Yeah.
But with it, it's what I think is she still respects people and differences, but
and
she says
she's wrong.
Yeah, she acknowledges her past. She acknowledges where she is now, but she acknowledges not everyone's like her. She's found this way where she can say, I can coexist in a way where I can be me without my filter because it doesn't hurt anyone. And I love it. So actually, she's so hugely inspiring.
Yeah, she is so unapologetically herself.
Yeah.
And even, I know sometimes people find that sort of quite spiky. I'm in awe of it, you know? I'm absolutely in awe of it. And I think also what's quite funny about her book is that she talks about being sort of, this is going to sound, when I was younger, I was a lot bigger than I am now. And she talks about being a short, dumpy, you know, crazy haired, young Jewish kid, which was 100% what I used to be. I'm not as round as I used to be, but I'm still short and I still have the crazy hair, and you know, and queer as well, which also sort of, and I think for me as well, I mean, in addition to being a writer, I'm also a producer, I'm also an actor, and I think there's something about sort of she isn't a classic beauty. Actually, I think she is very beautiful in her own particular way, and there's something so inspiring about that. It's something so I don't know, or inspiring, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't realize as well. I watched the BBC Imagine thing about her, and I think I saw it before, but for whatever reason, it didn't register. Obviously, she most recently she does a lot of voice work, and most recently she played the Meep in Doctor Who, and she always has done a lot of voice work. I didn't realize she was the sexy voice of the Cadbury's Caramel Bunny. Do you remember those adverts?
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know this either. You didn't know? No, I didn't know. Do you know, I think I watched that and it's so unlikely. And in the Imagine interview, she even says something about, I walked into the studio and they went, huh? She's doing this voice? And I'm also a voice artist and I've done voices as well.
Was it the 1980 one?
But I guess I can't quite remember when it was on. I mean, everybody in Britain remembers the Caramel Bunny, right? The Cadbury's Caramel Bunny. You certainly did. I think if you're over a certain age, you'll remember this. But apparently, she walked into the studio and somebody said, "She doesn't look like what we've animated." And no, in fact, if anything, she probably looks a bit more like the Meep. But it's funny. I mean, I've also had that in my voice work. I've sort of been cast as like unlikely.
Hey, Mr. Beaver, why are you beavering around? Haven't you heard of Cadbury's Caramel? See, as the thick Cadbury's milk chocolate melts with that dreamy caramel, you just have to take things really easy. Looks like somebody else could do with some. Take it easy with Cadbury's Caramel.
Isn't that crazy? She apparently also was the Babe was on television. A rerun of Babe was on television this morning. I didn't actually start watching it, but apparently I also didn't realize she's the voice of the mother sheepdog. Have you seen Babe?
Yeah.
She's the you know, he's raised by the sheepdogs.
It's been a long time since I watched that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow. Can we share the quick YouTube video we've got?
We've gone off on a tangent.
Yeah, no, I know. That's all right. I'm not ready either, to be honest. Present.
Pretty neurodiverse ladies having no focus at all on anything.
This one, hopefully, if I can get it to work. Am I done right? No, hang on.
Technical fun.
That's what I want.
There we go. Oh yes, Graham Norton. Oh yeah, she's usually very naughty.
I am decisive, but I can change my mind.
It's a beautiful thing to go, actually, I'm wrong. Do you know what? I'm wrong.
Yeah. It is.
A lot of the time, it's shockingly.
I love that.
You know this thing about
don't
trans.
judge anyone
Always
yesterday.
people will say, "Oh, you mustn't talk about trans." Well, fuck that. I'm going to talk about it. I was very keen on grammar. And so when people started talking about pronouns and that they wanted them and not he, she,
talk about
it would talk about it's clear, it's grammar, it's the structure of language. But I met a wonderful actress in Australia, Zoe Tarakis. Do you know? I mean, she's a brilliant actress, and she's trans. And she had a discussion with me about it, and she said, what does it matter to you if you can make somebody happy by calling them they instead of he or she? Why not do it? And I thought, that's right. It doesn't matter about grammar. If you can make someone happy and give them a sense of themselves, then do it.
Absolutely.
And so I'm now somebody who uses they and all the rest of it. Whatever they want me to say, I'll say it.
So interestingly, the default in English language is they.
Yeah.
So if you got an email
ungendered
and it said, "Hi, Sam rang," and you wanted to tell someone and you didn't, and you weren't referring to the name, you would say they if you didn't know if it was male or female. And I think it's really interesting because people only think of it as the plural, and that's because we these days use names so much that we've forgotten the basic core language, which is in the absence of knowing the he or she, you would say they. They rang. Who are they? I don't know who they are.
Yes.
Not who is
somebody's
she,
lost their.
You don't know. Yeah.
Somebody's lost their hat, purse. Oh, they must be upset about that. Oh, that must be difficult for them. That's normal. No, it's absolutely right. But I think it's more than that. I mean, I think Miriam Margolyes was sort of showing she's been on a bit of a journey, and actually, I believe why is my name Culture Club? What's his name? Boy George. Sorry, my brain went.
That's all right.
First
January, you were given a pass.
Yeah. Boy George has also had, some, to say that he's not been so wonderful to our trans siblings is sort of a bit of an understatement. And actually Miriam has had problems sort of in that regard as well.
What I would say though as well is they're of a generation where things in the past were different. And I think it's with all of us, right? We're human.
That's right.
And we're brought into this world at a certain point where certain things, I mean, come on, let's look, I'm sorry. Was it the 50s and 60s? Sexualists slept with their bosses and everyone was, I'm like, the world moves on. The thing is, part of it is about the culture around us. And I think what it's about is just saying, what are you doing today? And I feel like sometimes we do absolutely judge people on yesterday.
Yes.
And it stops us from having more allies. It stops us from progressing, because when we're so aggressive and so attacking of people who made a mistake yesterday, now it could have been intentional or it could have been accidental. Actually, neither matter if it was yesterday. What matters is what they're doing today and what they plan to do tomorrow. And I feel like if we were a bit more compassionate today and we spoke to them in a calm manner, then maybe tomorrow we would have a different scenario. And I've seen it myself where I've had anti-trans people join a Zoom where I've been doing a discussion, and I've had trans people in the room that they didn't even realise, and they were really on one, and I could have just kicked them out. But I'm of the opinion of well, there's obviously a reason, so let's have a discussion. And it was interesting because it was obviously a little bit tough to start with, but we just had a chat, we had a conversation, they got to know the trans person in the room.
Humanising. It's so vital.
Realised how much they had in common with this absolutely okay person who was not a complete crazy monster. So And you know what, that person probably still has a few little doubts or is still not 100% there, but you know what, we took them on such a journey. It took 2 hours of our time, and obviously I was checking in on that trans person to make sure they were okay in the comments. They, like, you know, because it was hard, but that 2 hours of time absolutely turned someone from absolutely anti-trans into someone who can be in the same room, who won't be quite so spiteful and horrible. And I think that's the thing, because if I'd have gone down the route of just like attacking them and having to go at them and then kicking them out, actually what would have happened? They would have doubled down on their hatred.
No, I think that's right. I think that's right.
But people also make mistakes when they're learning. And so we have to allow for maybe just taking a breath and checking in if it's a mistake and seeing how open that person is
to change. That's absolutely right. What's really interesting here as well is that I know that so just to go back to the video for just a moment, and then I want to sort of spring off from that as well. I think it's more than making people happy, because making people happy, you don't always have to make people happy. You know, sometimes you have to do things for yourself. But ultimately, if you're using someone's the pronouns they use for themselves, it's not you. It's not your place to, you know, in the same way as if somebody used to have a different name. I mean, I've got friends that are trans and cisgender who had names or have other names that other people call them, and that, you know, names that they use for me. And if somebody doesn't want to be called X name and wants to be called Y name, that's fine. If somebody wants to be called X pronoun and not Y pronoun,
it's no different from someone called Rebecca saying, please call me Becca.
Yeah,
it's absolutely called respect. If you actually respect the other human being, you will listen and you'll think to yourself, does this really impact me? No. Do I care about this person? Yes. So therefore,
it's no different from Boy George.
It's not like I'm saying, George, don't call me Naomi. Instead, you have to cut your left arm off.
Yeah. That's, I mean, it's,
you know, and I feel like that's sometimes the disproportionate nature of where we're at.
But yeah, absolutely. And then bringing it back to the sort of the Jewish side of things, what's really interesting, I went to a really interesting workshop or learning session, I guess, about transness in the Torah, in the Jewish Bible, I guess, and that is, there are, in fact, the idea, and I have a problem with the idea of a higher power, but that's not to comment on anybody else's. And you know, if you're just strictly looking at it academically, which is sort of the way I feel about it, I don't believe. I read Shakespeare and I love Shakespeare, but I don't believe that, you know, Hamlet actually happened exactly as it happened. You know, do you know what I mean? As it was in the play. But there are multiple genders that are used for God in the Torah. So that's, you know, that's normal in some cultures, in a lot of cultures. And the other thing is in terms of repentance, there's a Jewish concept called teshuva, which isn't actually, I mean, it's often translated as repentance, but it's actually a bit more than that. And it is a codified set of things that you have to do to make amends when you make a mistake. And actually there's a book by an American rabbi, American female rabbi, actually. I can't remember. I think it's just called On Repentance. And actually, I can't remember her name, which is terrible. But she had a chat with Neil Gaiman, who also has Jewish heritage, actually, about it. It's called On Repentance. And there is a codified way that you do teshuva. And I'm not hugely familiar with all of the steps of it, but one of them is kind of recognize, I mean, it's quite common sort of way repentance ideas of recognize you were wrong, recognize you made a mistake, sincerely apologize, and essentially it's sort of like try, you know, and own up to your mistake and say, I made this mistake, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And then going forward, it's not just, people talk about active teshuva, so it's not just about passively saying I was wrong, I made a mistake and I'm sorry. It's about actively, how can I make amends, do something physical to make amends for this, and actively make sure that maybe not, it doesn't happen again, but like so for example, for the example of like transphobia, I think it's kind of important to, if you are somebody who has maybe struggled with the concept of sort of transgender, one of the things, and I know I have had made mistakes in that regard. I know I have made mistakes in that regard, but with regards to that, I know that I not only need to apologize to that person, I not only need to make sure it doesn't happen again and sort of do my best to prevent that happening again, but I actually feel like I have to, it is my duty to actively do things to help that community if I have caused harm, essentially. I think that's such a powerful sort of value, really, and something that sort of makes me feel quite, that there's part of Jewish culture that doesn't make me so proud, and then there's things like that actually do make me feel proud.
But I think that's where you get the overlap into every other religion. I'm sure pretty much every group is, and I think that's left, isn't it? Like I say, I was brought up Christian and did so much Sunday school and church, and actually now, like, there's a lot of it that I don't connect with, and I put myself more into a spiritual space now. But also, even with that, with everything in the world, I take from things what I believe in, and I build my belief around that, and it's actually around compassion and understanding. And I think some of their core values that we all tend to, I think pretty much most religions would overlap. It's just obviously, you know, and that's what gives us the kind of understanding. But
and I also
there's very few people who literally follow their religion, I think, to the letter.
I mean, Jews certainly don't. And I mean, there's also a long history of Jewish atheism, and then people will kind of go, well, sorry, what? And but actually it's not uncommon at all. It's a very long tradition of that. But I also just wanted to name that we're two cisgender women, I mean, I assume you identify as cisgender.
Yes.
Women, cisgender queer women, talking about this, which, you know, in a way is kind of good, because I know a lot of queer cisgender women, a lot of, you know, queer cisgender women are sort of pointed to as like, oh, we're protecting them, which they're not. But also to sort of say we're talking about this issue, which with, you know, without trans people in the room. So and I'm aware of that. So do we want to move on to the final clip as well?
Yeah, well, we've actually got two, because I feel like now's a really good time to maybe slot in a little drag clip of you.
Oh yeah,
show some of your, because obviously you've written this, but you are also, as you say, a bit of an entertainer.
I have my fingers in many pies.
Yes. And so I think I have got to find what I've done with my screen. 1 second, my screen. Oh, there we go. I feel like this is quite good. I will pull us down while we watch this, but this, I think, again, shows a little bit of kind of your humor, and also showcases some of the Jewishness. So I'm going to chop us out and then.
And it won't make one bit of difference if I answer right or wrong. When you're a Tory, they think you really know.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah, very quick select.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, no. I know I haven't got a huge, and that's not, I mean, I haven't got great quality clips either. That was from, do you know, that was that was March 2020, just before lockdown. And that was at the Man Up. The Glory does a competition called Man Up. And that was at a heat that I did. And for those that don't know the song, it's from Fiddler on the Roof. And it's If I Were a Rich Man. And I mean, some of the stuff that I do in drag is sort of just purely silly, but some of the stuff that I do in drag, I like to, I think in the drag king community in particular, and in the queen community actually, it's nice to bring in slightly political things. And so I rewrote If I Were a Rich Man to If I Were a Tory. And and that was me talking about, and it all feels so out of date now, but we're talking about Dominic Cummings. Remember him?
12 back, wasn't it? Last year?
That?
12 people back about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, although apparently he was, I saw something that he was in the news, apparently he was having chats with Rishi Sunak, which
but
yeah, so that was that, and that was my performance for
all I would say to everyone watching is this is why we need a cinematographer.
Oh, with regards to the, yes, no, Naomi, you're doing a wonderful job. It's New Year's Day, and
I know
you're grappling with new technology, and that's all good. We love to see it.
I think we're doing an okay job, but hopefully we're showing to everyone as well why you need money to make a production, because you need more than 2 people, because I'm trying to run the social media and the tech and also be live, and I'm like, this is great. Thank God I'm a Gemini who can multitask, and with ADHD it's fantastic. I'm just like boom, 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 boom.
It is, yeah, we definitely, I mean, that is, I mean, we probably should talk about that, because that is one of the things, you know, when I wrote this script, I've been writing this script, I think the current draft that I'm on is about draft 11, I think, and has been sort of in various forms since about 2017 or so. And the thing that we need to sort of work on with the script, the thing in terms of the crowdfunding, the reason why we're doing the crowdfunding, you know, can you film a short film on an iPad in a living room? You can. I just feel like it's so limited doing that. And I feel like if I'm going to tell this story, I want more. I want more than that, actually. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. You know, we've had conversations about fantastic directors we want on board. As we've said, we'd love to have, you know, we would adore having Miriam as the grandmother. And unfortunately, all of that, you know, if we could do it with light and air, if we could all exist with light and air,
can I pay you in Lebkuchen?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love Lebkuchen. Sorry.
I love them too.
I just suddenly realised I've got a whole box of it in my room.
Those are the ones that I had one for the first time this season yesterday. And the reason is that the ones I keep seeing, the chocolate ones, and the chocolate on them isn't very good quality chocolate, and I don't like.
I buy the bag from Lidl, which is the only place I found them, that they do half and half, or it's 2/3 of this very nice Lebkuchen and 1/3 chocolate. And I separate them out, and I say to my dad, you can eat the chocolate ones.
No, and I had it for the first time, and I in fact, it's very funny actually. Just yesterday, I was at my parents' and I had one, and I said, "Oh, you know, they're so tasty." And my mum starts going, "You're so much like your grandfather," and it's my dad's. And I mean, it's a bit sort of bit of a sad sort of anecdote, but actually, the last time before he very sadly passed away, the last time I saw him in the care home that he was in, he was absolutely devouring a bag of Lebkuchen, because you can't get them so much in America.
You can't get them in the UK apart from December in Lidl's.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean that's because they're Christmas thing.
Yeah, and I buy 7 bags and it gets me through to August.
And it's also because Lidl and Aldi do them as well, but they're both German. They're both German supermarkets. So
we're just conscious that I'm trying to monitor all the social media channels and also time as well. It's been over an hour. We've had a comment on Instagram because I did ask people. We did successfully go live on Instagram.
Hooray!
There is hope for
Instagram.
And lots of people have been coming in and going, and I asked if anyone had any kind of questions, and we have had one. The funding issue. Can you speak more on that? So I guess I mean.
Yeah,
it's probably more from my end on that one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it costs, as Ashley indicated, it costs money to make a film. So, for example, we can be clever. Ashley and I can donate our time for free and, have a second job. That's fine. You can, be creative. And, for example, costumes, say to your cast, please bring your own. You can go to a charity shop to get the kind of set design things you need. So there's ways you can definitely cut corners, save money. And obviously we will do what we can to be sensible and clever. However, once you start getting into technical, for example, even with myself and Ashley, if we want to have the time to do it, we need to make sure we've got the time and we're not doing a second, third, fourth job. So, but also, let's say the cinematographer, to get a good cinematographer to guarantee their time. And also, because we are not a production company with loads of equipment, probably want a cinematographer who either has their own camera or we will have to hire a camera. Yeah, there's ways we can't get rid of that cost. As I say, something like Mirror Margles, no doubt, they have special rates for kind of projects they enjoy, but they still have to get paid. They're part of the union where there is a minimum payment, and we've all seen what happens when the unions go on strike. Everything stops, and rightly so. We've got to remember we live in a world. Like, look at what's going on in the world. People are complaining they've got enough money, not got enough money to live on. That includes people in the arts, cinematographers, editors. The one thing I've seen over the last 2 years with Netflix, what I find really interesting, is how many filmmakers don't think about the editing process, and they will find an editor and hire them for maybe 3 or 4 hours to edit their short film, thinking, well, it's a 5-minute short, that's all I need, or no budget at all. And then what you end up doing, you find an editor, and either they keep deprioritizing your project because they keep getting better paid work, or you haven't allocated enough time and you end up with a part finished project. So things like that, I've obviously learned, and I've gone to Ashley, we need a budget for editing, because that's you can film what the hell you like, but actually if you look at a film, it's an editor who brings it together, makes it transition beautifully, decides how much sits on the floor and how much ends up in, alongside the, obviously, your director and producer as well, but they are the ones that make it happen. And also technical, who loves a film where you're talking and the words don't line up, so important.
Audio
skills, the audio, the editing, the music, it's important that we pay artists for the music they provide. So all artists, things we can,
artists.
Yeah, so there's certain stuff we can be creative on. For example, we could go to a venue that we need to film in and ask them if they want to be a sponsor and give them exposure. But that only works for businesses. It doesn't work for individuals.
Yeah.
You can, and the reality is that we can sit in all the streaming platforms. Like now, if you look on LinkedIn on my profile, all I'm sharing is like how every streaming platform in the in the mainstream world, Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, their business models are broken. They're in the debt. They're looking to consolidate. Then there's not that much money to go around. So given the chaos of the streaming world and the realistic outlook that actually is, films don't make much money on streaming platforms. There are just very few investors. And then you still have the issue. The majority of people greenlighting, and a green light is when we say, yes, we're going into production. The people making those decisions are quite often cis white men still. And so what happens is, I still hear people going into rooms to pitch their work going, we've already got a lesbian on TV. And it's like, oh, great, but that lesbian doesn't have any friends or a relationship and no depth of character. But that doesn't matter, because the only way you're going to get these authentic stories made, unfortunately, is self-financing. However, I would say there's a real big benefit for that. If you crowdfund and you get the money directly from the audience, a bit of a pain, sometimes you're paying twice. It depends how you set it up and things. But what it means is Ashleigh's script will get made as Ashley's script. There won't be someone going, oh, I think that Jewish young girl should be a young Jewish boy, or going, well, why is it set in the UK? Maybe we should set that in America, or saying
there's more Jews in America.
Yeah,
say,
there is. Like, we don't think they should be going for IVF. We think that, and this is the thing. So actually, generally, the people who give the money, or they might turn around and go, well, we don't want Miriam, we want to have, and pick some non-Jewish, non-relevant person because they're deemed to be more famous. All those things come with that money. So actually, sometimes by keeping it in-house, you get full creative control. And that's why when you look at the independent movies you're watching that have maybe been made on a shoestring or made by crowdfunders that are independently released, that's why they're more authentic, because they haven't had that person who knows nothing about the culture and the demographic kind of going, change this, change that. You actually get to make what you understand and what the audience wants to see. So hopefully that helps a little bit in an understanding. So basically we're raising money to make a very good quality product. So we haven't gone for the cheaper end, because we know that comes with time restrictions, challenges. We've been prudent. I've been through it 4 or 5 times with the phone.
We've both been,
back to
the labour of love.
Like we need to stand on this. You need this, putting in that expertise that I've learned and things. And really but then also not gone over the top and gone, well, okay, this is. So what we've done is come up with a budget that really does mean we can make a good quality product, pay people fairly, and end up with something that will look like it could be on TV and be well made, but obviously without the restrictions that come with that. So it would still be independently released, but that's kind of where we're at. So
we should probably also say that we have and are also looking for other avenues of funding alongside that. And ultimately I think stories in our I sort of came to an epiphany the other day, and I actually wrote something on LinkedIn about this. Okay, I can't talk for everybody, but stories for me, and actually I think to everybody, are kind of vital. The human experience is storytelling, and in the modern day, that means streaming platforms, actually, more often than not. And these, there are things that we've seen, stories that have been told in recent years that have really changed things and really been vital and touched people and been, actually politically quite important in some ways as well. And I think it's good to acknowledge that, and then also acknowledge that doesn't happen without a huge amount of work and people who are incredibly talented in their field. And that's not just people in front of the camera, that's people behind the camera as well. Actually, overwhelmingly, it's the people behind the camera that don't get the credit. And they are artists, and they should be, I'm passionate about making sure that artists who are incredible are paid probably not incredible amounts of money, but reasonable, and should be able to live off that. And I know I have, as I say, I am an actor, and I know a lot of people around the industry, and a lot of people right now, incredibly talented people. I am in awe of people who are really finding things very, very hard.
Yeah.
And
I would just say we have
to actually not paying them is sort of part of that problem, or not paying them, what they should be paid.
The lessons I've learned about editing actually we've just been joined by a very good editor, Emily. So I'm going to embarrass her slightly and say, if anyone does need an editor, she's just dropped in. And she should say hello. If we're talking to Emily.
What's her surname? What's her surname? Go on, plug it. We want to hear it.
_ Emily at the moment. So
okay.
She was the reason I've really learned this, because hearing about how there's not enough time allocated, and really understanding how important editing was, and also just delineating, saying, so if I've got a 5-minute film and I've got this much footage, how much time do you need? And I think that's a kind of good example of where the money would be going for this crowdfunder. It would be for that kind of talent. But I think it's important to dig into those different roles and say to them, how long do I need? Sometimes filmmakers just go, oh, I just need an editor. It's a 5-minute film, so I'll set aside 2 days. I'm sure that'll be fine. Actually, go and ask the person, how long do you need for this? Because that's where, you know, the kind of time can really kind of make a difference, and the money and things. Emily has just put her full name for you in.
Good. Well done, Emily. No, and it's the same for me. I mean, I'm a voice artist, and again, you know, you get people kind of going, well, we can just spend this on it, and it's like, or you can just record it, you know, we can just record it from home, or we can just, you know, we don't need a studio or whatever. I mean, yeah, but also what level, you know, like, is it going to fit your needs?
Is there going to be a dog barking in the background?
Is it going to be a dog barking? I mean, I do sometimes record from home, and we deal with that. But also, it's not going to be the same quality as if you've got a sound, you know, a sound technician in the room, and somebody that just isn't me editing things, you know. So, which is what happens when I do home recorded voice work. So
we do also have the video for the fundraiser that we recorded, which I would say to everyone is comedic genius. Because we filmed it with a dog and a cat in the room. Mistake number one.
Hang on.
And obviously,
so that cat on that sofa, actually.
Yeah.
And the dog who's been good and asleep.
So there are some lovely outtakes of dogs, like, you know, shaking and making noise in the background and things. But we do go into a bit of detail about, for anyone who obviously is asking what's film's about, we talk about the story, what we're making, what we want to make it for, how, you know, and everything in there. You also get to see the outtakes, dogs jumping up on laps.
Yeah. I know, and also beautifully and sort of serendipitously shows the importance of decent sound equipment and editing. And
see, everyone always says you want to do a really good crowdfunder video to show that you know what you're doing, and I'm like, no, what we need to do is show why we really need to pay people.
I mean, yeah. And it's not that we, to be clear, it's not that we don't know what we're doing. We know exactly what we're doing as producers and as a writer. But we're not, I mean, somebody said to me a while ago, why don't you direct it? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I've never directed anything. I don't know that I'm come from a primarily stage. I mean, I've directed voice. That's not actually true. I've directed voice. But when it comes to film directing, that is such a different, I mean, I've never even directed stage. I would say you should observe your director, and then maybe the second film you could have a go at directing. Don't think that I haven't thought about that, but
which is what I've seen a lot of filmmakers do, and I think it's very important. And that's it. That's also why half of the Hollywood women who are over 30 and can't get paid are suddenly producers and directors, because that's the reality of it. You know, they've sat there and gone, hang on a minute, and you build the confidence being on set. I think you're right. You should never go into your first project just going, I'm going to do it all myself. I
was also told at drama school, go and be, I mean, sometimes extras, you don't get paid as an extra. And that's what we did at drama school. We went and did, I mean, you should get paid as an extra, but we did unpaid extra work. And actually, it's one of those things of like, if you're on set, you learn a lot by just being on set as a runner, as a extra, as a, you know. And we also probably should say that we would love to have sort of a newer generation on set to learn the ropes as well. But again, there are costs involved with that. And also, you know, if the part of the problem with this industry is, in order to get that experience, you need to be wealthy enough that you don't have to go and do, you know, a day job, and that you can have the money essentially to take the time off to go and do that training.
Harsh Light News have asked, is it going to be any good? I mean, so what I would say is it's a fantastic script. I mean, I can say that because I didn't write it, Ashley did, but I think it's relatable. Is it going to be any good? I mean, it's like with every film, it's going to depend on what budget we've got, the quality of our actors, the directors, and then obviously having a good editor who can finish it with the kind of color and sound and transitions. it could be good. It has the potential to be good. I'm confident if we raise the money that we're looking for, it will be good. What I would say is it's about having the right talented people in the room. We've budgeted accordingly for that, and I think that's the important thing. And having a good story. And I think this, you say, the story will resonate with so many different groups because of those intersectionalities and overlaps. Anyone looking to use IVF or IUI to start a family, whether in the UK or abroad, any same-sex couples looking to start a family, any Jewish people looking into their heritage, any other religion looking into their heritage, there's all those overlaps. Anyone with their grandparents and the differences in how they grew up and how we grew up, like
generational
exactly. So there's lots of different ways that there'll be that kind of it's a short film, so you're going to get a really kind of condensed story that's going to really draw you in quite quickly, take you on this journey. And obviously inevitably with a short film, at the end there may be a bit of an open mark for you to have it finish how you want to do. And I think that's what I like about short films as well, is feature films tend to really be fully wrapped up unless they know they're going to have a sequel, and then you're thinking this is going to get worse and worse as we get the second and third film.
Mostly
like rarity. But with a short film you tend to get a really good story. If it's edited well and it's presented well, you can jump straight in really quickly, have a really good solid storyline, and then an end that gives you satisfaction but also is open to interpretation. That for me is a really good ending, because it allows people to take from what they want. So you might see a film with an ending where two people are walking away, and someone will be like, oh, they walked away and they lived happily ever after, and someone went, well, they walked away and had kids, and someone else might say, oh, they walked together and got their favorite job. It's that kind of ending sometimes where you can kind of, it's not completely laid out for you.
It's not an answer, it's a question. And I mean, I think saying, is it any good? I mean, good, sort of, not to sound sort of, but good is subjective. We've had some wonderful feedback on the script, or I should say because I wrote the script. I've had some wonderful feedback on the script. We are in conversation with some really interesting creatives around, because you have conversations with people, but that conversation can only go so far before there's some money to put on the table, unfortunately. And one of the other things that I should add about, I mean, we've said about the sort of grandparent relationships and Jewish relationships, or Jewish, nurse, and queer themes. And the other thing that we haven't sort of talked about is there isn't a lot of media, and there's somewhat a reason for that, but like talking about the elephant in the room that is Brexit. And actually that's one thing that the reason why I started writing this is, the inciting incident that inspired me to write this was Brexit. And I think that's really interesting, because I actually think there's and in future there's been a few bits and pieces that have come out, but I don't think anybody has sort of narratively factored that in so much. And I think that's strange and unusual. And I feel like that's sort of another selling point to the, as it were, to the film, that, why aren't we making films about how this makes us feel? I should say, as somebody who sort of wanted to stay in Europe, essentially. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
So, what have you got? What have you got lines up? Have we got something else to watch, or are we gonna?
I think that's probably it. I'm very conscious we've been on an hour and 21 minutes, so that's enough. What I was going to say was, what we can do is I can tee up and play at the end of this video our crowdfunder video that we've referenced.
Lovely.
Because I think that'd be just quite good, and it means anyone who comes across this and watches it, it'll all be linked in. And in the chat, we've added the link to the crowdfunder introduction page. So this is the launch, but it's not the launch of the crowdfunder. We're not going live yet, because we know January's crazy for everyone. So we wanted to give people a chance, a heads up that it's coming. So we wanted to celebrate the start of 2024.
And we have and in terms of the date, when it will go.
We're going for the 1st of February for a go live date for the crowdfunder. So at the moment, you can put your email address in and sign up for news, and then you'll get the notification when it goes live. I would say in terms of perks, we've gone slightly different on this. We've got the usual perks like a social thank you, like you can have your name in the credits. We do offer some executive producer opportunities as well. So for example, you know, like so there's the traditional perks that you would expect. For example, executive sponsorship. However, also because it's about relationships, and also there's a bit of a we've decided to go slightly differently, so we're like all in for 2024. So yeah, we are literally, this is how you be creative with money. So
it'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly. We're really that crazy. And obviously with the link with Netflix, there'll also be some stuff with that as well. So
and we have potentially, again, we are you know, one of the reasons why we need to sort of you know, why we decided that 1st of February would be a good time is that we're also looking at having some incredible exclusive jewelry that will, again, details of that will come out. But and we have some very interesting different perks, and you know, information about that will be drip feeding it, because like, stay tuned.
But yeah, so I'll tee up the video and it'll end after that, so we'll say goodbye. Is there anything else you want to share, Ashleigh? I mean, you've covered quite a lot in the video we're about to show. Any other final words?
Be kind to each other. Try and see the humanity in people that you don't agree with, or people that perhaps have been, you know, demonized in the press in particular, and have a lovely 2024. I got the date right. I got the year right.
Yay! Okay, awesome. Let me find the video. So thank you, everyone. As I say, this video is about 6 minutes long, so it's not massively long, but it's a bit of a deep dive into what Lebkuchen is. So you'll find out what the story is about, why it's being made. You get to meet Civil, Ashleigh's dog, a bit more, and see some of our outtakes, which will give you, as I say, a bit of an indication why we need a sound person, an editor, cinematographer, and also lead actors that are not pets.
Yeah, I didn't write it with a canine and a feline in mind, as much as I love my animals.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Naomi Bennett, and I'm the co-producer on this short film, Lebkuchen. And we're here to entice you to find out more and hopefully come with us on this journey to make this short film. I'd like to introduce Ashleigh.
Hi, I'm Ashleigh Loeb. I am the writer of Lebkuchen. I'm also coming on as a co-producer.
So tell us why you wrote this story.
So Lebkuchen is very loosely based on an imagined conversation with my grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor, and the driving factor behind this imagined conversation was Brexit and my looking into getting German citizenship from her. Unfortunately, we never ended up having that conversation, but the imagined conversation sort of took on various different forms, and that's where we are with the script today.
Fantastic. I was really interested. I've seen a lot of stories come through. I run a streaming platform called Netflix, and we've always looked for authentic stories, and for me, anything written with some lived experience really adds depth, and really is what kind of brings these stories to a level that so many people resonate with. So when I saw this and met Ashleigh, I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to really resonate. It's some really interesting aspects that haven't been kind of covered, or maybe could definitely be covered more. So what are some of the themes that people may resonate with within Lebkuchen, would you say?
Yeah, there's definitely Jewish family dynamics, age differences, different generations, how different generations relate to each other, identity, sexuality identity, but also national identity and cultural identity and religious identity. There are themes of LGBT families as well. Leave anything out?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, the big one that's obviously most prominent right now is obviously the changes with IVF in the UK. Brexit definitely, as you say, has had a huge impact on choices and options. Our NHS is constantly changing, and so actually it's really timely. And obviously there's so much in the world right now around kind of different religions and things, and what impacts that has on personal life, and obviously in different people there will be different conflicts and different things like that, so there's huge overlaps with real life. So that's what I think really is exciting about this project. So have a look below. There's lots of information about the project, what we're trying to raise, why we're trying to raise it, who we'd like as the dream cast. I think you've done a great job of bringing those characters to life. Obviously no guarantee we can get dream cast, but some of them have been in other short films, so we know they're open to it. But have a look, and obviously the more we raise, the more we can get towards the dream cast, the dream production. We've got quite a lot of information there for you to read. Have a look, and we'll be doing updates as well through the crowdfunding. If you can't afford to donate right now, you could share the project. That's another way without money to help us amplify.
Yeah, and thank you very much for anything you can contribute, or any sharing you can do, and any shouting about this project for us.
So thank you for watching us too.
Thank you.
and obviously we've included a little bit of video about some of the stuff we've been involved in, because we've both got quite a rich background, to give a bit of an insight of where we're coming from. And we just hope you like what we're doing, want to join on this journey, and help us make this piece of magic.
And it won't make one bit of difference if I answer right or wrong. When you're a Tory, they think you really know.
Lesflix is a lesbian-owned and Sapphic-run independent streaming platform, and so much more. I've built something that is sustainable and for the future, that can stand up against what the world is going through with all of these changes in the digital video and film market. We want to be what you need it to be.
Suggested let's make it a date and dinner thing. That sounds like a date. No, it was the way she said it. It was very unclear. Okay. Hey.
Are you going to be in our video? Yeah? You want to be in our video? You're purring very lovely. Oh, thank you. Oh. Yeah. Well, if we don't make the money, I'm sure you could be the sound person.
I mean, I think she'd make a huge amount of noise.
Yeah. Do we need purring?
Maybe.
Sybil, what? Oh no, what are you doing?
Down. Stay. Shh. Oh, I know, you want to be on the camera. Oh, okay, look. Oh, you want to be in a film? Yeah? Well, if we don't get the money, you might be our lead. Down you go.
Sybil, the cat doesn't like you doing that, my love.
Sybil. Okay, sit.
It's all right.
No.
Oh,